world. It's me, Dennis, today. Niki, Jouffroy, I'm so looking forward to talking with you today. How are you?
Thank you very much. Doing very well.
I am, it's such a time of change and growth in the entire technological community. And so I wanted to know, first I want to know is because you're a player in this community, you work with Microsoft and you get a chance to really to be applying and seeing the applications for AI and how this is going to be impacting us in the business world. So I want to know a little bit about you. You were born in 82, you
Yeah,
told me, and so you're coming into, how did you get into the technological world?
interesting. So I did basically, I have an engineering background, so I was always interested into science, mathematics, physics. So that was my, my base, let's say my foundations as a student. And then, so I did at the time it was telecom engineering. So everyone was talking about wireless and cell phones. And I think that's back in time when it was 2001 when I started my university. Like the new world was, how what can we achieve with just like these phones and smartphones and building, these amazing applications on the App Store in the Apple the iPhone didn't even exist. It was at the time when we were playing, Snake and Ladder with the Nokia phones. So that's the world I got into, and it's so interesting to see how much it's changed like in just 20 years. I started in the telecom and like wireless world and building applications for mobile phone, but like in Nokia type thing to to seeing it evolve from from the old phones to smartphones to iPads. And then now it's like this new era of, artificial intelligence and cloud and, what we're seeing happening. So it's just like, to me, it's just constantly changing. And that's what I like about what I do is I never get bored.
What have you taken up what made you decide to join Microsoft?
Well, that is a good question. I did basically just for you to better understand my background. Right after engineering school, I was hesitating between entrepreneurship and just going into a big company. So I took the easy way, which was getting into a big company, and that was working for Accenture, the consulting firm. And back then, I started working in the technology division. So not programming, but really thinking about what is the business application of all these technologies. And this is really what I always loved, was not about, I think I'm not a developer and that's not something I wanted to work into. I'm more, understanding how can we apply technology to day-to-day business, and that depending on which businesses we're looking into. So I started working into that era, and then I went to New York and I started developing the cloud for AT&T at the time, working with a team, and that was back in 2006. So back then, nobody was so much into cloud. People were thinking about building their own cloud. And Microsoft wasn't that's, let's say, successful. I mean, we didn't see the success of Microsoft
No.
at the time. It was still very much Windows Phone and the Windows desktop, and I wasn't so much impressed by Microsoft in that sense. They started launching Azure, and that's how I started seeing Azure and AWS. Also, they started like launching the cloud computing, and we were pretty much watching what's happening. And that's what I was telling you. I did my MBA at the same time, my executive MBA in New York at Columbia University, while I was working at Accenture in the US. and we had a value investing class, and they started teaching us, like they gave us that exercise of looking into different companies and think about what the share value would be in like the next 10 years. And we had Microsoft as an example. And I will never forget, I was 2012. I will never forget. um we had to apply a risk factor. There was a lot of like unknown about what we think the value would be. So we had to add our own, assumptions. And maybe 90% of the class were like, we're not believing in, anything growing in Microsoft. The value will go down. And I think I was just one of the only ones who was very optimistic because I had seen that cloud thing coming up through the work. And I was like, no, I feel like something is happening. I think I just got that inspiration. And at the time, I was like, the value is going to go up, and I should have invested at that time. But I didn't because I don't
But it's
like
still, but you
gambling.
did, you invested both in wanting to put your personal capital into it because you wanted
Yeah.
to go ahead and join them. This is interesting to see. What was your experience in the United States, coming from France and the culture in France and the mindset, and coming to the United States and seeing? Can you give me a perspective from what you experienced and what you thought about when the culture, the mindset, the thinking that was here in the United States?
Yeah, absolutely. So for you to better understand my background, I'm originally from Iran. So I grew up in France and in Iran, but I was basically back in France when I was 15. I did my study in France, and then I went to the university when I went to the US with my company. I worked for Accenture, which is an American company. So
Exactly.
when I was 25, I stayed there 6 years. Definitely as a global, let's say, citizen of the world, because that's how I see myself. I definitely loved the experience of, seeing, the American culture of diversity. And I was very impressed by that, even though I was working for the same company, Accenture, in both countries. I experienced Paris office and US office. But the recruitments and the type of talents that went into, I felt that the US was very, very, very open-minded, and I'm not shocked that innovation comes so much from the US. We had in our teams, we call it pizza teams. We had in our teams, there was that culture of having so many people with different skills. Like we had like an Olympic runner, we had like engineer, we had people. I remember there was this person who was a theologist and that had converted to business. And it's so much comes out of that multicultural teams. And I'm not just saying about it as a country, but also in the companies, because that's what I experienced. Like in a business company like Accenture or Microsoft or whatever, they look at you and your potential. You don't need to have like that CV with like everyone shaped the same thing, like best schools, etc. They're looking at diversity really at all levels. And I feel like that was something very special to the US, that I loved. I'm not saying it's not the case in France. We have a lot of other, people are extremely smart, extremely cultured, and that's something that I always cherish. And now I live in France. I really love living here and working here. But it's just that diversity and like giving the chance to anyone to say, okay, even if it's not your skill of where you should normally be, you can fit in if this is something that you want to achieve. So that's my experience.
Ah, that's wonderful. And so what are you doing now with Microsoft? What kinds of things are you interested in? What's exciting you that's in your windshield, Nikki?
Yeah, so what is interesting, I joined Microsoft 4 years ago. And at the time, the first thing that I was interested was artificial intelligence. I mean, that was before the ChatGPT thing, but I was really that was some data, and AI was definitely a topic of interest for me. I was interested to see what's the applications of it, how we can make businesses better, not replacing people, but that's why we call it, I love this brand that we use in Microsoft, which is Copilot. Means we're really helping people to do what they have to do more efficiently, spending less time in doing, silly things, and spending more quality time in things. And when we look at the what I've done with Microsoft is coming from consulting. Obviously, I didn't join the engineering team from Microsoft, but I joined a team called Digital Advisory, which is really the strategy arm of Microsoft. Means we're all strategy consultants, and what we do is we sit with our clients that are like large clients. My domain is manufacturing, industry manufacturing, but they are like different domains, and energy. That's my domain. And we sit with the CDOs and we help them think the future of their company, leveraging the technologies that we see today or that we will have in future. Because we're at Microsoft, we know well what's the technology today, what's the state of the art, what we're doing in the cloud, what we're doing in the AI, what we're doing in, now it's generative AI. So it's like a very interesting time because everyone is asking us about, what is it that we can do with generative AI? What are the use cases that we can apply in our company that's valuable, not just like, hey, I'm just going to play with it, but what are the use cases that we need to invest that are really going to help, either augment our revenue or, like cut our costs.
So much of what I've been learning as I've been working with Chat GPT and the other services that we're getting in generative is that I have to learn how to talk to it, because it will only give me what I'm willing to ask. And am I able to ask a better question? Am I able to get it? Because the better that I ask the question, the deeper it's able to give me the answers in this. And at first, it's difficult for me to really to understand what is a prompt and how to be able to teach it. So you're teaching. Can you give me some examples on how a manufacturer might use, or how someone in the energy world might use it, so that I could have a better understanding of it, Nikki?
Yeah, absolutely. You can imagine, as I'm just going to give you a very simple example. Like there are two domains. One is, as a company, how can I use this for the processes of my own company? So that's like my HR functions, my finance functions. Imagine tomorrow you want to ask your HR, what is my salary? Or, what if my contract changes? What do I have to do? What are the conditions? And those type of conversations are already a lot digitalized. But it's a chat bot, and it's annoying because, it's very restricted to that, like two questions you can ask and you see it already. It's like when I call, now, I buy something in internet and I have a chat bot, it's just annoying me. So it removes that like thing, and you feel like you're talking to a real human that's kind of like, oh hi, thank you for joining, and you have the feeling, even though it's not like real, that it's a conversation. And that's definitely, to me, that's a much better user experience than what we had before. So and the other thing is it's the ability of the technology to give sense to so much data, and like, just, how we have so much data, and they say, like, there's so much unexploited data that people are not even like understanding, and they can't give meaning to it. So imagine you're in manufacturing, you have so much data from your products, from feedback from your customers, and it's so difficult to put meaning on it, to say, okay, how are they using it? Is it sustainable? Are there things I can change? And with the new era of sustainability, you need to do sustainability sourcing. You need to be flexible. You need to understand what your customer wants and be agile, and being able to, in a split second, answer your query someplace, and and be able to get that chat GPT to answer you, or even give you suggestions beyond the question you had asked. I've seen that already in my domain, where you query a question, and this chat GPT is actually in our customer insights, Dynamic 365 plus chat GPT. You ask them to tell you about customer segments or something, and then it has access to the data and it will tell you, how about, you look at this and this correlation because the data is there. So imagine,
Oh,
this is
that's
just like,
amazing.
that's amazing. You have just, that's where the co-pilot thing comes into mind, because like it's
Yes.
helping you better understand what's out there.
So,
And
so I
yeah,
could ask it questions like, what am I not? Here is the situation I have. What am I not thinking about? Suggest things that I am not thinking about that will actually be able to bring in ideas that are there that I'm blind to.
absolutely. Right now in our customer insight co-pilots, we have exactly that. You don't even have to ask the question. You ask a question and it will automatically pump what you're not thinking about.
Suddenly we're seeing it rise up. We're seeing the innovation and Microsoft. What has happened in the last few years? Has it been leadership? Has it been what do you see as the as how Microsoft is coming into this ascendancy? Because I don't think it's just technology. I think it's something to do with the that there is a culture. Something has shifted there in Microsoft, and maybe you can help me to understand it a little better.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure, for me, it was not like, I know that for the market, it's like, wow, this thing happened, but it's not like this thing happened. It's just like years that, Microsoft and we were working on these technologies. And to be honest, 3 years ago, Microsoft introduced JP3 2 years ago when I was starting shaping those AI partnership with my clients, and they asked us what the future holds. And we said JPT3, but nobody understood what it meant. And we're like, yes, but we're investing in that. And what they didn't understand was, when we say we're investing 1 billion, 1 billion is a lot at the time in AI. They didn't get it because they do invest too, but I have not seen, and that's why I joined Microsoft, is the amount of, or, any big tech is in the industry. I haven't seen so much money invested in innovation and future. And that's what I love. The number one reason I joined Microsoft at the time, because I had many options. And when I was 4 years ago, was when I looked at how much they're investing in the future, I was like, that's a company. Because even if today we don't have something, it will come. It will come. And that's really, so for me, it wasn't a surprise. And everyone, oh, like this thing came out. Well, we have worked hard on it. They invested not only in OpenAI, they invested in other, our own teams, and we tried so many things. It looks like the ChatGPT OpenAI is today our best investment. So we're going now with it, but it's not the only one, and we've been working really hard on it. And what I wanted to add was, what I loved about Microsoft, and that's why I'm here today, is they always talk about growth mindset. And when I joined Microsoft the first day, they said growth mindset, and I was like, "What is that? I have never heard about it." And they're like, if it's all about how are you, what are you doing in your everyday to learn and to learn from others, and what do you do to teach to others? And I was like, that's interesting. And when it came to, I thought it was just, blah, blah. And when it came to my performance at the end of the year, there was like a question, like, what did you do to learn? What did you learn? And what did you teach to others? And who did you empower? And what did you learn? And when I saw that, I was like, okay, and it's really, that's the reflection of growth mindset, and it's about helping each other as a community to be better. And I really love that part of the culture that we have.
Oh, Nikki, this is well, here at the end of the show, tell me, what have we not talked about that you want to talk about? What's on your or on your mind or on your heart that is going on in the world or going on right now?
Yeah, I think there is a lot that will come with responsible AI, and how can we make sure that we have these technologies under control and we have an ethical use of all these good things that's happening. And I think that this is something that, I'm starting to look into. A lot of our customers are worried about data confidentiality, about data privacy, about making sure that, the model is not using any, confidential data to feed other people. And I think that's the security and ethics. To me, it's a huge topic. And my only point was, I try to say it to a lot of my clients, is if you use the open AI Azure service, you make sure that the data belongs to you, and it's basically the data is on your instance.
What an enlightening time. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you for giving me some time today from Paris, and knowing that this is a time when things are changing so quickly, but we're getting an opportunity to be able to get closer, to be able to use AI in such a wonderful function. I feel very hopeful. I know that there are going to be challenges and many intended and unintended consequences that are going to come from this. That's normal with any technology, but we're going to get a chance to be able to do it together and to increase. So thank you for coming today, and thank you for coming on the show.
Sure, thank you for the opportunity.
All right. Thank you, everybody, and we will see you all next time.
This episode of Reasonably Spontaneous Conversations has been brought to you in part by In Search of the New Compassionate Male. For more information, go to newcompassionatemale.com.